Hello, dear viewer. Welcome to the United States of Europe with this week's guest, Mr. Tijl Rood, co-founder of the Steve Jobs iPad School, featuring headlines from Poland's Małgosia Krakowska and me, your host, Greg Shapiro, the American Netherlander. Welcome back, everybody. Here we are once again, giving the EU the respect they deserve by making fun of them, just like everybody else. Don't forget our new hashtag, GSUSE, and you can search for all things United States of Europe. And please do give us some feedback so that we know you're out there. Our guest in the studio will be Mr. Tijl Rood. And actually, I can say hi now. Hi, Tijl.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Greg.
You've interviewed me before. Now is my chance to interview you. Yeah, you're working with this iPad school, director of this iPad school here in Amsterdam. How many iPads do you have?
I have, personally, you mean, I have 2 iPads. The school has a lot more.
And how many apps do you have on all of your screens?
That would be a lot of screens with a lot of folders with a whole lot of apps in it.
Okay, more than you can count.
Yeah.
Thank you. That answers that question.
When the 64 gigabyte are full, then I have to remove some.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's helpful.
Mm-hmm.
I know that feeling. Well, we'll get back to you in just a moment, but first let's check in with the headlines, if that's all right. And here we go! Big news from the EU summit last week and this week. But before we get to that, Ukraine. A temporary ceasefire has taken effect in Ukraine after France and Germany met with Russia 2 weeks ago for a temporary ceasefire and then met again last week to make a temporary ceasefire. François Hollande and Angela Merkel described last week's meeting as productive, ending in a temporary ceasefire. Vladimir Putin responded by saying, "Yeah, I'll see you next week." Encouragingly, the French and German leaders also invited the EU foreign policy chief, Francesca Mogherini, who in theory it's her job to do the negotiating. But if all goes well, next time she'll get to sit at the big kids table. And if she's really good, she can clean up that, she can totally follow up and clean up that accidental amnesty that Merkel and Hollande gave to the rebels who shot down Malaysia flight MH17. Anti-terror measures were a hot topic last week at the EU summit in Brussels, with some officials proposing sweeping new powers for spy agencies, like in the US. Now the ones spying on Angela Merkel's phone calls will no longer only be the NSA, but maybe her own neighbors, like the Greeks. Partly in response to the overreach of US spy agencies, the Obama administration is now proposing to roll back some surveillance powers given after 9/11, encouraging the EU to follow his lead. But then 2 Danish asshats had to shoot up a free speech event in Copenhagen and ruin it for everybody. Say hello to new sweeping security measures. The Copenhagen shootings helped justify things like France's new ruling that displays of religious devotion should not be allowed in public. You know, it's like that slogan that pops up now and again, sometimes on a billboard, about how religion is like a penis. Only in this case, religion is like a penis. It's okay to have one, and it's okay to be proud of it. But if I point out that waving it around makes you kind of a dick, don't shoot up a cafe full of free speech advocates, because it only proves our point. The other big news from Brussels was Greek Prime Minister Alex Tsipras' first EU summit. After Tsipras declared that the Troika is over and then immediately reversed himself in agreeing to meet with the Troika, the other EU leaders said, "You have passed the EU flip-flop initiation." What is the state of the Troika, the Eurozone, the IMF, and the European Central Bank? Well, according to the Greeks, this austerity-pushing trio is dead. How can they tell? Just look at the video. Here is Yanis Varoufakis, Greek finance minister, with the Eurogroup chairman Dijsselbloem, and Varoufakis says, "I recognize nothing of your authority." Oh, wait a minute. Let me just get the translation. "And this meeting is over," says Dijsselbloem. But not before whispering something to Varoufakis, causing him to say, "Wow." There it is. "Wow," says Varoufakis. What did he say? According to Varoufakis, Dijsselbloem said, "You just killed the Troika." This made Giannis into an immediate folk hero in his homeland, inspiring some great photoshopping. You killed the Troika! But just one question, folks. Why would Dijsselbloem say that? Basically admitting you win. I mean, based on lip reading, we can assume that Varoufakis did say, wow, but you just killed the Troika? That's less likely than any of the following options that Dijsselbloem could have said. He could have said, you are not invited for snack time. Or, you'd better be careful or I'll call Mutti Merkel. Or, I hope you like the drachma, Baldy. But one other question that's been bothering me. After Tsipras said he rejects the legitimacy of the Troika, he is doing a good job of meeting with them, except for one, the IMF. Granted, Christine Lagarde is not even part of the EU, but isn't that exactly why Alex Tsipras should be meeting with her? Couldn't he convince her with his youth, with his open collar, with his Mediterranean appetites? He has certain assets that these other guys don't have. I mean, look, obviously Christine Lagarde doesn't have that much in common with her predecessor, Dominique Strauss-Kahn, who is in more sex scandal trouble, defending himself in a court case for pimping by saying lust is not a crime, or basically, what's wrong with being sexy? But even if Christine Lagarde has a little bit in common with Strauss-Kahn, her predecessor, or for that matter, with the wife-swapping president of France, François Hollande, maybe it's time to remind the French that you don't have to stay with the same partner forever. And then you can say the Troika has split up. But now that's it for the headlines. Let's check in with some headlines from a specific region. That would be Poland. And let's go now to our correspondent, Małgorzata Krakowska.
The headlines.
Tell us, what are the headlines in Poland?
Hi, Greg. Poland is amid the protests. Thousands of Polish farmers have turned into protests last week in over 50 locations across Poland. The farmers blockaded the main highway leading to Warsaw with over 150 tractors, and also they closed the roads in other locations in Poland. And vowed to continue the protests against the government until the government meets and talks with the family farmers. The protest has been going on for over a year now and are a direct consequence of the sanctions that Poland imposed on Russia, and Russia retaliated with new ones.
Małgorzata, I know the presidential election coming up in May, that's a separate thing, but you're talking about the prime minister who will be chosen with the parliamentary elections. That's coming up in the fall. Who's the prime minister right now?
Well, Prime Minister Ewa Kopacz, she's featured on the cover of the magazine W Sieci. She's the second female prime minister in Polish history so far. But she's dealing with a lot of problems. The article that I'm showing you calls her that she's under siege. She's under siege from her party comrades, under pressure to lead Civic Platform once again to the victory in the fall parliamentary elections taking place next October. And she's under threat that is coming from the protesting groups, from mine workers, from teachers, from doctors, from
the farmers,
virtually everybody.
Yeah. A lot of protests on the way to the elections coming up in Parliament. One more thing?
So the situation with Russia is very bad at the moment. Russia doesn't want Poland getting involved in the Ukraine. Some part of the Polish political scene does not want Poland to get involved in the problem with the Ukraine. One of the presidential candidates, Mrs. Magdalena Ogórek, who is, well, except for her striking beauty, she has expressed a very decisive point on the view with Russia. We must restore the diplomatic relations with Russia, she said at the opening of her presidential campaign last Saturday.
If I can sum up, it seems like Alex Tsipras is coming in from the far left in Greece because the people have had enough with the EU. It looks like Poland, kind of the same thing happening. Here comes a far left party with an attractive new leader. who is saying enough with the EU sanctions on Russia. We have to do what we want. Is there a parallel there?
No, because Polish Democratic Left Alliance is pro-European. They've chose Mrs. Magdalena Ogórek to represent their party because she resembles, she's the embodiment of a symbol of change for the Left Democratic Alliance, which is associated with the former post-communist rule, and they want to change. Even perhaps she will not win in these elections. Choosing her for the to run to the presidential for the presidential seat in May can be seen as a long-reach strategy for Left Democratic Alliance to win back support in October parliamentary elections in Poland. Greg?
Okay. Thank you, Małgosia Krakowska from Poland.
Thank you.
Thank you, Małgosia. Those were some breaking news events from Poland. And right now, let's go to our guest in the studio, Tijl Rood. Hi there.
Hi.
Hi. Before we get to your interview, I just want to get some questions to get to know you a little bit.
Okay.
It's the 6 and 60, so these are questions at random. The first answer off the top of your head is exactly the right answer. Okay. 60 seconds. Are you ready?
Quite.
Okay. Where did you grow up?
In near Arnhem.
Near Arnhem, in the east of the Netherlands.
Very good.
What was your favorite subject in school?
History, I'd guess.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. And what was the one subject that you didn't get to study quite enough?
Ooh, math, I would say.
Okay, great. Yeah. What was the poster on your wall when you were growing up?
Oh, that was beautiful. It was a nude woman before a cow.
Okay.
In monochrome, so it was greenish.
Okay.
And it said disarming, and it was an election poster for the Pacific Socialist Party.
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
The PSP.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
That was
great.
That was my inspiration for later sexual activities, I guess.
Well, that's more
rather than politics
than I expected. My goodness, yeah, really. That's a classic one. All right. What book are you reading right now? What book are you reading?
I'm reading a book by Peter Middeldorp,
yep.
Vertrouwd Voordelig, and it's about a blogger store in Emmen in Drenthe.
Okay. And is it online, or are you reading like on a pad or on
No, I
paper?
read paper books.
Yeah. And do you have any pets?
I have one cat.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, we've been talking about education and education in the EU. There are certainly some big trends that are going on. And if you haven't heard yet, then maybe you've seen Ken Robinson on his TED Talk talking about how schools kill creativity. Maybe this is a good jumping off point.
National education systems where mistakes are the worst thing you can make. And the result is that we are educating people out of their creative capacities. Picasso once said this. He said that all children are born artists. The problem is to remain an artist as we grow up. I believe this passionately, that we don't grow into creativity, we grow out of it.
Well, there we go. We grow out of creativity. Now, that's a great point for talking about this new creativity in education. The iPad school, the Steve Jobs school, creating quite a stir in education, not just in the Netherlands, but internationally. Can you tell us what's it all about?
Well, not only do we grow out of creativity, we also sort of grow out of learning.
Okay.
Because if you just look at what you learn before you're 4 years old and go to elementary school,
yeah,
that's a whole lot of things like walking and talking and all the important stuff.
Socialization.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then we go into kindergarten, and there it's basically quite fun. And later on, school gets a bore.
Yeah.
And
well, first grade, you start sitting in a desk.
Deprived of your autonomy and your creativity, indeed. Yeah. So that's what school does to us. And and there are many school reformers who have been concluding exactly the same. Yeah. And it was never possible to actually change anything. Yeah. Because we didn't know how to organize it. Yeah. And then the iPad, which is portable, or a tablet in general, which is portable and quite simple to use for small children.
Yeah, the whole interface is just much more.
Yeah, everybody
intuitive.
Can understand it. Very old and very young people. Yeah. So it can, when you get that into education, you shouldn't keep the whole system intact and say, okay, we'll do it now with tablets.
Right.
But you should really look at what were our original goals and what are the means that we have now, and how can we put that together.
I know that iPads are entering more and more classrooms. There's a more digital approach to existing classrooms. Why start a whole new school?
Well, it doesn't help to have the old system and the new devices. Most often that works counterproductive.
Yeah.
If you make from your textbook a PDF, and from your workbook also a PDF, which you can put notes on or so.
Right.
Oh, it's horrible. It's a book behind glass. It doesn't work. The interface is lousy.
Right.
You shouldn't do that.
Okay.
But you should redesign education from scratch if you know that you have the World Wide Web and so on accessible through this very portable, handy device.
I mean, I know that some of the difficulties that you may have, convincing people to join this school is that we're just teaching another generation to be, a legion of screen-addicted kids, and they don't call it 4 eyes anymore; they call it square eyes. If you've been staring at this square screen for so long, and yet you're saying that you're already building in some more physical activities, you're allowing boys maybe to go.
We are doing quite natural and normally, like grown-ups also use their devices when they need it and put it away when they want to have a good conversation.
Okay.
But just before this broadcast started, you were also looking something up, maybe a text message or whatever.
I wasn't.
And why shouldn't we deprive our children these means?
Yeah. Well, talking about the involvement of other government ministers, it's not just the Netherlands who is now looking at the iPad school. I believe the Austrian Minister of Family Affairs came to visit your iPad school, the Steve Jobs School in Amsterdam. Let's take a look at what she had to say.
Germany and Austria are very successful, very innovative companies, very high gross national product, low unemployment. They're very successful companies, and everybody says that the system of education is very successful. Who argues with success? Why would you want to change a winning formula, which is based from, the old good German strict system?
No, our school system is not that successful. We see it in the international PISA tests. It's not that successful. We have a lot of problems with boys in school because they have behavioral problems with that kind of pressure and very structured way. And we see it also that in the innovative character and in the entrepreneurship, we are not very good. So for me, this is a result of the.
So it was a fantastic system for reproduction of knowledge and structured organizing, but to do innovation and change, that is not the right.
Innovation, individualization, and flexible change. We are not prepared for that.
Okay.
Interesting that, well, first of all, that was the biggest close-up I think that minister has ever seen. Thank you, Vincent Everts, for that close-up video. Okay, well, I've seen a lot of schools like the Rudolf Steiner school, that's based on this 19th century German educators who were reformers at the time as well. So maybe there's a point, maybe we're ready for a new level of reform. The EU has a new initiative opening up education to bring more technical innovation into classrooms. Is there any point? Do we need more involvement from like the EU or less?
Oh, I'd say less. I'd say that the Dutch model actually is the good thing to start. In California, they try to implement an iPad program all over statewide.
Right.
And
thanks to Jerry Brown, the more liberal
it basically failed.
Governor. Okay, it failed.
Yeah. So you should have it. I think this kind of revolution should be a grassroots.
From the ground up.
Yeah.
And not from the top down.
No, exactly.
Okay.
And
well, like you're saying, I mean, it seems like the model here is allowing parents to actually start their own schools. That's how you got as far as you
yeah, and it doesn't require money because we don't buy textbooks, we buy iPads.
But what are you finding then with boys in particular? Because the Austrian minister mentions that boys can be a problem. I know from grade 1, sit down, shut up, do your work, and when it's time to play, you can. But now that we're, getting these kids, the boys in particular that she mentioned, Is that leading to bigger problems, maybe?
We have part of the answer there, because we give back to pupils the autonomy about their learning, so they can basically do it in their pace on their own spot, and also pick the subjects that they work on.
Okay.
And that's something that the male species can work with.
Okay.
And girls, they need the structure, and I can do it exactly as it is supposed to be done. And girls function in a more rigid system.
And which age are we talking
boys
about
don't
mostly? Like 6, 7, 8?
That goes on through your whole life. So,
really?
Yeah. We are more the free riders, and the women are more the professionals that want to do it as it's supposed. I read it somewhere, so it's probably true. yeah.
Okay.
But actually, no. What we
should I follow up with the whole?
What we see at school is that a whole lot of pupils with problems at their previous schools, or even from the special education, which is for behavioral problems and learning problems, come into our school and perform very normally.
What is the role of the teacher? I mean, and this gets back to a fundamental question. And like, if, for example, Austria has limited resources, they have to choose: do we put iPads in every school, or do we invest more in the teachers? I mean, is there?
We have limited resources, and we cope very well with it. So it's not more expensive to do it smart.
Okay.
And the role of the teacher is now to be there. Yeah. And to provide answers when necessary. And to have regular talks, like every 6 weeks, half an hour or longer, with parent and child about the process and the goals and so on.
If we'd like to know more about the Steve Jobs School, where do we go?
deontplooiing.nu.
.nu.
Yeah.
That's going to be impossible for
exactly.
A lot of viewers will try to put it on screen.
Okay, thank you.
Or you can follow the link, perhaps, that we will put in there. Thank you very much to our guest, Tijl Rood. Thank you to Małgosia Krakowska. And again, check out the hashtag. Use the hashtag GSUSE if you want to feedback and let us know what you thought about the episode. Thank you very much. Shout out to Broadcast Amsterdam. Do subscribe to us on YouTube, and we'll see you next week.